Now, I've seen a lot of people talk about how this is, super confusing and it doesn't make any sense. For those of you that don't know, IDW is coming out with a 300th issue of Ninja Turtles in July using legacy numbering, right? And they have this whole graphic here to explain how it works. So they go like TMNT Mirage Volume 1, TMNT Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4. And then they cut to TMNT IDW Volume 1. And everyone is wrong. One, this makes sense. This is fine. This is cool. I'm okay with having a 300th issue. Great. But IDW also kind of used this naming system of volumes wrong. Now, I say that, but I don't really blame them because there is no hard definition that I can find anywhere for the volume system. Like at the end of the day, maybe it is all arbitrary, but this system does exist even if no one has like written it down in any sort of book or article that I've read. I've done a lot of Googling. I have like a couple books about comic books. None of them define this. So let me create an argument for you on what it is and how it's supposed to work. Now, the title I'm going to use to explain all of this is Blue Beetle because Blue Beetle is a mess. It was passed from publisher to publisher. It has a lot of different volumes. It was like, rebooted, changed continuity. It's done all of it. So first, to give you a definition of volume, right? Every single time a new series is started under the same title, it becomes a new volume. This is regardless of continuity being carried between those volumes and regardless of whether it's the same publisher publishing the book in between those volumes. For example, Fox Feature Syndicate published the original Blue Beetle series about a guy named Dan Garrett. Garrett spelled with one T. That's important for later. He's a guy that takes a vitamin called X2, and he goes out and fights crime using the superpowers that vitamin gives him. Later on, Charlton Comics would purchase this title, and they would publish more stories about this Dan Garrett who takes the vitamin in a new volume, Volume 2. After Volume 2, though, between Volume 2 and Volume 3, they completely reboot the idea of Blue Beetle. Now his name is spelt with two T's, Dan Garrett, two T's at the end. And he's an archaeologist who finds this magical scarab that gives him superpowers. There is zero continuity in between Volume 2 and Volume 3. This new Dan Garrett is a totally new character from Dan Garrett with one T. Nonetheless, it's still Volume 3. Later on, Charlton Comics would pass the mantle on to Ted Kord in Volume 5 of Blue Beetle. So basically from Dan Garrett all the way up to Jaime Reyes that we know today, there is continuity. But it did change publishers in between Volume 5 and Volume 6. And nonetheless, it's still Blue Beetle Volume 6 when DC purchased the Charlton comic characters and published a new series about Ted Kord. And then Volume 7 happened in the aughts, and Jaime Reyes became the Blue Beetle. And so bringing it back to 300 issues of Ninja Turtles here, all right? IDW calls this Volume 1 when it should be Volume 5, and calls this Volume 2 when it should be Volume 6, because this is the next volume of a mainline Ninja Turtles comic. This is the next volume of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It rebooted everything. There's no continuity in there. But much like Blue Beetle, and we can even talk about Wonder Woman, literally there's no continuity in between every single volume of Wonder Woman that exists. They kind of reboot the concept every single time. And so again, that's why this should be Volume 5 and Volume 6. It also just makes all of it make a lot more sense now, because there's people that ask the question, like, why don't we include Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures in this, or all of the other side stories or side issues, whatever. And when you number it like this, like it is separate from all of this, it does make it feel arbitrary, right? But when you continue that legacy numbering and call this Volume 5 and Volume 6 because they are the next volumes of mainline Ninja Turtles comic, the next volumes of the title Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 300 issues makes a lot more sense. Because at the end of the day, like IDW is right, this is continuing the mainline Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles title. They should just call it Volume 5 and Volume 6.